Hey, good morning. This is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and I'm happy talking just in case. Here we go. I am doing an unwise thing right now where I am uploading a YouTube video while also live on YouTube. We'll see if that works out. But yes, November 26th, it's the day before Thanksgiving here in the US. And yeah, it's a couple videos this week are relevant. I'm doing Rolling Realms live plays. I did the first one yesterday. I have another one today at 3 o'clock St. Louis time, another one tomorrow. And then I'm here for today's live cast. And this past Sunday, I did a video, or I posted a video about my top 10 favorite fish in Finspan. I'm curious if you, after seeing that video, if you've had any thoughts about what maybe your favorite fish is in Finspan, or your favorite aquatic animal in general that you would like to see in Wingspan, I'm sorry, in Finspan someday. See, Ian says that he just played Tokaido Duo solo. Yeah, I saw your post on Instagram about that, Ian. I'm glad you gave that a try. That's our 1 to 2 player game. Have it in a stack next to me here, a little bit too deep. In fact, all the boxes I have on the stack next to me have like a white theme. Like Origin Story has an overall white box, and the Vantage has a white box. Or not Vantage, the Vantage update pack. Tokaido, Crossroads, and Matsuri have a white box. Started with Charterstone. I think that was our first whiter box game. Garrett says, we got Tapestry with all the expansions to the table after a long absence. Still might be his favorite. What Stonemaier Games has it been the longest since you've played it? Ooh, that's a good question, Garrett. And I was thinking about Tapestry the other day. I'm hosting some games this weekend, and if someone wants to play Tapestry there, I would love to play Tapestry there. We have a longer time. So just in case the game goes long, we have plenty of time. It has been a little while since I played Tapestry. What has been the longest? I don't think it's been Tapestry, because I know I've played Tapestry in the last few years. I'm looking at my list here. The longest Stonemaier game that I've played, or the longest since I played a Stonemaier game, My Little Scythe, it's been a while. Pendulum, it's been a while. I think it's one of those two. Pendulum or My Little Scythe. I think it would be one of those. Yeah. And hopefully the connection's okay. I just tried to load the Stonemaier Games website, and it was a little bit slow. Anthony says, looking forward to the new Finspan expansion next year and an announcement on December 31st. So yeah, December 31st, I've pre-announced that I'm going to do a preview of what is to come in 2026. And right now I'm thinking the format will be that I will just talk through the what is coming for 2026. I probably won't reveal boxes. I probably won't reveal names, but I also may do that. I'm not trying to keep things too secret in that way, but I guess I'm just not ready. I don't know if I'm ready to have those things on Board Game Geek yet, because if they're on Board Game Geek, then I'll get a bunch of, or potentially get a bunch of questions about what's in those things. And this is just meant to be a sneak preview, not a time to fully start talking about these products, which I will do much closer to when we actually launch them. So debating that right now. I'm open to your feedback about how much you think I should reveal with respect to that idea, that I'm not looking to do a full deep dive into any of these new products for 2026. Just looking to sneak preview them on December 31st. Julio got to play Fate of the Fellowship last night. That's a hard co-op. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad you had fun with it. I have not played that one yet, but I do love the Lord of the Rings universe, and I generally like pandemic games. So I'm curious to try it out. Chad says his hometown has a bluegill festival. So bluegills have always been a favorite of mine, talking about favorite fish or aquatic animals that are in Finspan or could appear in Finspan in the future. Papa Patzer says, do you have a favorite lawn game? What mechanisms do you like about it? Or is it mostly the dexterity aspect? I think I have a video about this a while ago, but my favorite lawn game is ladder golf. I love ladder golf. We've played it at family reunions on the beach many, many times, and I have a kit. It's in our basement. I haven't gotten it out in in a while, but I need to get it out more often. But I love the kind of, there are a few catch-up mechanisms in ladder golf, and that you can, the idea in ladder golf, for those of you who haven't played, is that you have a string with golf balls on the end, and you throw the string at a ladder that has 3 rungs on it, and you're trying to get it to wrap around one of those rungs. The top rung, at least the way that we play, the top rung is 3 points, middle rung is 2 points, bottom rung is 1 point. And there are ways that you can catch up. There are ways that you can cancel out opponents' points. And also, crucially, the way that we play, you have to get exactly 21, as I think is what we play to. So if you don't get exactly 21, so even if you've raced ahead, you're well ahead of the other team, you're about to get 21, but you go over, then you go down that many points instead. And so it leads to some really tense finishes as a result. I really like that about ladder golf. Ryan says he's playing Scythe solo this week and confirm it still holds up and is still amazing. I'm so happy to hear that, Ryan. Thanks for bringing it out to the table after maybe an absence. I'm really glad to hear that. I did get the chance to play Scythe with my friend Zach sometime in the last year, so it hasn't been too long for me since I last played it. Carol says, in fact, let's make this the question of the day. What is the most recent Stonemaier game that you played? And maybe what is the longest, the Stonemaier game that you have played, but it's been the longest since you've played that game. Carol says, we had a great 2-player game of Viticulture with Tuscany and Rhine Valley on Monday. Always fall back to our comfort game around the holidays. That's true. Yeah, it is. A few of our games to me are very comforting, are our comfort games. Viticulture is one of them. Tapestry is probably one of them for me. And Vantage is also one of them. Vantage Solo in particular is very chill for me to play. Matthew says that his copy of Wormspan just showed up. Any cool tips for my first solo game? I don't know solo well, Matthew. That isn't part of what I do at Stonemaier Games. But if anyone has any tips for Matthew for solo play, feel free to let me know. Joe's looking forward to playing Origin Story this evening. Oh, today. Awesome. I hope you have fun with it, Joe. And Jeff also played Origin Story with his group on Saturday. Lots of fun twists. I'm happy to hear that, Jeff. I had fun getting together with Pete on Friday to talk about adding new superheroes to the game. That's the card that you reveal at the beginning of round 5. So we're looking to make a promo pack of more superheroes to add sometime in 2026. And we have a really good foundation already of what we might add, and it's already in blind play testing. So I think it might move pretty quickly. Clementine's also working on the art. Garrett says Pendulum might be his game that he hasn't played in the longest time, and he says it's his twin's favorite game. RJ Games Guy says, when do you do the teaser riddles for the upcoming year? I usually do that. I think I usually do that in the last newsletter or the first newsletter of the new year. I don't necessarily know if I will do that this year, though. If I do actually do a full sneak preview teaser in on December 31st, that might just be it. There might not be riddles next year. So I'll see how I play that out. I know the riddles are fun to guess what is coming, but I'm kind of just going to talk about it a little bit on December 31st is my plan. I'm sorry, I have a sneeze coming. We'll see if it comes. Aaron says, excuse me, it came. Aaron says, I played Tend, the new game from IV Studios this past weekend after picking it up at PAX Unplugged. Absolutely loving it. I think it's my new favorite flip and write game. That's awesome, Aaron. It looks beautiful. They did a beautiful job with the production. Tim Lotep says, will there be a stamp swap expansion? We don't currently have one planned, but you never know for the future. I'm not being vague here. It is for real that we don't have anything planned for it. Chris, who also was at PAX Unplugged, says, what is my favorite pie? I bounce around between a few different pies, Chris, but I think I'm excited, at least this year, about a chocolate walnut bourbon pie that we will be sharing with friends on Thanksgiving tomorrow. I am not making this pie. We are buying this from a bakery that we really love. We love a lot of local bakeries, including this one is Pint Size Bakery. Also, Whisk Bakery is one of my favorites as well. We kind of made a last-minute decision here. I did attend a Friendsgiving this past Sunday and had a great time. A lot of delicious food. And the thing that we tried to do at this Friends Thanksgiving this year was we tried to put a twist on traditional American Thanksgiving food. A great example of this, probably the best example, was that a friend made stuffing, but she made it in a waffle maker. So it was like, it looked like waffles, but it was actually stuffing in waffle form. It was really delicious. I made a peanut soup, and Megan had the creative idea, along with her brother and sister-in-law had this idea of making mashed potatoes, but making it in a Japanese taiyaki press. If you haven't had taiyaki, it's like it's fish. They look like fish. It's not actually fish, but it's fish-shaped pancakes, essentially. But we made it out of mashed potatoes, and it actually worked really, really well. They ended up having, it was like a mix, but it was like a fish-shaped French fry, essentially, in the end. They were quite good. Did any of you do Friendsgivings or are doing Friendsgivings? That's essentially what we're doing tomorrow. We're bouncing around between a few different friends' Thanksgivings since our families aren't here in St. Louis. We actually had beautiful weather in St. Louis this past weekend. We also played some disc golf, had a good round of disc golf, and did some play testing over the weekend as well. Brennan says, I played Red Rising last week for the first time since reading the books, and that was so fun. I remember thinking the Howlers were the villains the first time I played it. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they do look, well, they are, and they do look mischievous in the game, in the art for the game. See a lot of picks here. Recent origin story for RJ Games guy. Longest since I last played Wingspan, though I play the app every day. So I haven't played it on the tabletop in a while. Jeff says he still needs to post his Zoolander Vantage Adventure from yesterday. One of the Stonemaier games of the Stonemaier games I own, probably Red Rising has been the longest since last playing it. And Jeff, I'm glad you mentioned Zoolander. I am soon going to play Vantage with the Zoolander challenge, which means that you can't head directly west. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to film it yet. I've kind of been missing just playing Vantage for the sake of myself instead of talking to a camera about it. But we'll see. It's always a debate for me when I do that. But sometimes I just want to play it and not have that in the back of my mind that I need to be entertaining while I play it. Morgan played Origin Story just last night as well. A lot of Origin Story getting the table. That's awesome. Last weekend we played My Little Scythe, Tokaido Rolling Realms, and Stamp Swap. Yeah, Morgan's been going through the Stonemaier collection. Morgan, I appreciate your post on the Facebook groups about these different games that you've been playing from us. Let's see. I see a few other answers to this. Most recent, Ian says he played Origin Story, but he also did the Tokaido solo playthrough as well. Tapestry on BGA. Wormspan is the one that's the longest for Ian. Wormspan just came out around 2 years ago. So you've been playing a lot of Stonemaier games in that time. Jeff picks a pecan pie. Yeah, do any of you else have any favorite pies that you are hoping to eat this week? Andy says, can you ever imagine a board game about disc golf? Andy, there are a few actually tabletop games about disc golf. There are a few of them out there. For me, if I want to play disc golf or I want a game that feels like disc golf, my go-to is Crokinole. I think Crokinole captures the feeling of disc golf really, really well on the tabletop. But in general, the way I think about sports is if I want to play the sport, I want to go outside and actually play it rather than trying to distill it onto the tabletop, with the one exception being racing games. Nate says, do you intend to keep or bring back the launch price for the Wingspan expansion when the Finspan expansion launches? Well, currently, the Wingspan expansion is a separate launch than the Finspan expansion. They were originally planned to happen at the same time. That is no longer happening due to something that happened with the Finspan production that bumped it back by a few months. So given that they're separate, when we launch Wingspan, there will be lower prices. I don't know if it'll be the original launch price, but there will be lower prices for Wingspan products when we launch the Wingspan expansion. Likewise, later on in the year, when we launch the Finspan expansion, there will be a lower price for the core game for Finspan and probably some discounts on the other accessories as well. So directly related to the product that we launch, that the other related products will be discounted. Chad mentions having some ice cream with apple pie. I do love, in fact, one of my adulthood favorites is having a warm baked dessert, like a warm brownie, a warm piece of pie, and having just a little bit of ice cream with it. I really like that cold and the warm next to each other. Prius Guy 2024 is joining us from Surprise, Arizona. I finally got to join the Livecast today since the Arts College where he works is closed for Thanksgiving, and he took a couple of days off. Well, good to have you. What's on your mind today? Feel free to. I'm glad you were able to pop in for the first time in a while. Monkley Butler Labs has a theory about pie. There are two types of pie makers: those that can make pie and those who think they can make pie. Nobody has ever had an okay pie. It was either fantastic or not good. That's a hot take. I don't know if I entirely agree, but I do. There is a big gap between a really, really great pie and an okay pie, which I'd rather only eat. I'd rather spend the calories on the really, really delicious pie if possible. But I do appreciate the effort put into any pie that anyone tries to make. Darren says, I love the moment that these streams fall as I'm cooking tea for myself and my mom. Good timing for that, Darren. Tonight, toad in the hole with onion gravy. That sounds delicious. P.S. My new rescue dog from Peru, Diogo, is really fitting in, although we do have a language barrier. Yeah, I've seen your post about this. Darren posts under the name White Spider. And yeah, it's been really cute seeing Diogo go on some walks with you and you talking about the language barrier. It's really incredible for you to take in a new dog and give Diogo a new life where you are. I think you're in the UK, if I'm correct. Carol says that her Nona used to make an Italian meat stuffing that was delicious as our unique dish. Ben came really close to mimicking it finally from what we have of her recipe as she passed away quite a while ago. That's impressive that Ben came close to replicating it. I've discovered, so one Thanksgiving dish that I've discovered late in life that I didn't know I would like as much as I do now is growing up when we would have cranberries. As far as I can recall, we would do cranberries from the can. Like it would be like, you know, the gelatinous cranberry. And I feel like my mom may have spruced it up a little bit, but it was essentially just that. I could be remembering that completely wrong. But I would have like a little token amount next to the stuffing on my plate. However, Megan's sister-in-law, Alex, makes cranberries from scratch. She makes it's still a little gelatinous, but it is completely from scratch. And it has like orange zest in it. And it's so good. Like it's really refreshing and delicious. And it isn't like a token dish anymore. I will dollop that on my plate and go back for seconds. It is so good. And so I'm actually really, really looking forward to that tomorrow if Alex decides to make it for Thanksgiving or maybe for Christmas. It's neat when you make things from scratch and it wasn't made that way when you were growing up, how different and how much more delicious it can be. Twist on classics here. Shavantech says, I enjoy a pumpkin cheesecake instead of a traditional pumpkin pie. I'm with you on that. Yeah, I do like a pumpkin pie, but there's something about the extra fluffiness, I would say, about the pumpkin cheesecake that makes it really, really good. LBG will eat any pie, and pecan is excellent. Just Bob, I think you might be new to commenting here. Welcome. Says, my wife and I came across a fairly new bookstore in the Hudson Valley. They hosted a Wingspan game night to introduce the Stonemaier Games to the community. Had a great time teaching newcomers to the game. That's wonderful. Feel free to name the name of the bookstore if you'd like to share it. I love hearing about that. And thank you so much for taking the time to teach it to other people. That was really, really generous of you to do that. Andy, I saw Andy had a question here. Andy says, yeah, racing games is the exception for many. I wonder why. Yeah, I have a video about this from a while ago. I don't even know if I could fully identify why. My best guess at the answer is for those who either love to follow sports or play sports, that there are many outlets for doing so already. Either I can go play soccer, I can watch soccer. I watch a lot of like Premier League, MLS, Champions League, or I can play fantasy soccer. I don't really do that. I did a little bit of fantasy football this year. I do fantasy baseball. But those are like three really good outlets for playing the game or feeling like you're actively involved in the game. And I guess that does apply to racing as well. But oddly, like I don't follow car racing at all in real life. And yet I will gladly play Downforce. I'll gladly play Heat. Those racing games really appeal to me. And so maybe it's because I don't know how universal this is. It can't possibly be fully universal, but maybe it's because those are sports that I don't already have an outlet for. I'm not going to go race in a car. I'm not going to do fantasy racing. I'm not going to watch cars go around a track over and over again because I have no interest in that. Maybe racing games are my outlet for cargo fast on tabletop. I don't know. Anyone else have any theories about that? Aaron says his most recent play is Vantage, and the longest since he last played is maybe Scythe or Viticulture. He's looking to get apiary and expeditions back to the table as well. Chris says most recent is Scythe, but the Steam version. Otherwise, it's Euphoria. Longest played would be Viticulture. Some good, interesting picks here about what you most recently have played from Stonemaier Games and what's been the longest that you haven't played, but you have played this game from Stonemaier. Steven says he played Apiary and Wingspan on Board Game Arena recently and also got to play Viticulture recently as well. And Tapestry as well. A lot of Board Game Arena playing there, Steven. Garrett says, are we watching anything good right now? We're enjoying The Beast in Me. Oh, tell me about that, Garrett. I'm not familiar with The Beast in Me. And Pluribus. I'm really, really excited to get into Pluribus. Right now, in fact, Garrett, this is a good segue for me to briefly show you stuff we love. I was going to talk about this today, and I have some shows on my. So just yesterday, I updated the Stuff We Love page on our website. I'll show it to you so you know what I'm talking about. I'll be back for comments in a minute. Nate, I'll wrap yours up real quick. I'm Marcel Met. How you kept the Wormspan launch price until Origin Story launched since they were close in timing. The Wormspan. I see what you're saying, Nate. No, that was a special exception. They were only just a few weeks away, but the Wingspan expansion and the Finspan expansion are going to be months apart. So, but we are launching 2 products at the same time for each of them. So I don't think we'll keep that launch pricing for 3 to 4 months. Yeah, I see what you're saying though. All right, I'm going to share my screen here real quick to show you the Stuff We Love page on our website. Here we go. So this is a page that shows, and I'll zoom in a little bit. This is a page that shows different things that me and my coworkers love. You can scroll down and see, and people update it at different times. I try to update it once a month for just various stuff that we love right now. And you can, it's on the Stonemaier Games website, Stuff We Love. You can always check it out. And then it's archived down below as well. So you can go down here and see an archive of many different things that we love. And so Garrett asked about what are we watching right now? Right now, we're watching A Man on the Inside. Season 2 is on Netflix. This is a mystery half-hour comedy by the makers of Parks and Rec. So it's really sweet, but also genuinely funny. And a good mystery as well. We're watching Loot on Apple TV. I think the Loot finale might be today, if I have that timed out right. And then we're watching High Potential, another mystery show as well. Those are the 3 shows. But I am looking to start watching Pluribus in the near future. Other stuff we love, I mentioned right here, tabletop game, a newer tabletop game. I got to play Duel for Cardia recently and really, really enjoyed that. Tiny Towns, I played that on Board Game Arena last week and had a good time, or no, 2 weeks ago, and had a good time doing that. For Stonemaier Games, I would say one of the things I've really been enjoying recently, other than Origin Story, are the Wingspan Bird promo packs, like this one. And digital game, I played Slay the Princess recently. I always try to feature a gaming podcast that I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying the Tabletop Bellhop podcast right now. A non-gaming podcast I'm enjoying is the Pretend Problems podcast. It's between a couple who are comedians, and they just sit around and talk, and they're funny together. I'm reading right now The Strength of the Few, which is the follow-up to The Will of the Many by James Islington. We watched The Bad Guys 2 over the weekend, and also watched The Roses, which actually we just watched last night, so it's not on this list. The Bad Guys 2 was actually really, really good. Good animated heist-ish movie. I'll watch pretty much any heist movie. And the sumo tournament really recently wrapped up, the latest sumo tournament in Japan, so I enjoyed watching that. And Wisp Bakery and Pint Size Bakery. I'll give a shout out to both of them. Also on YouTube, I've added YouTube recently as a category. I have enjoyed some recent interviews on Jimmy Kimmel Live. Jim Gaffigan was on there the other day. It was very funny as always. And Distraction Makers, a new to me podcast about collectible card games. I've been enjoying that, run by some game designers. Been enjoying that YouTube channel recently as well. So in any of those categories, is there anything that you have really been loving lately that you'd like to share? Feel free to mention in the comments, and maybe I'll say it out loud. Viking Kittens has an interesting pie pick here. The Saskatoon Berry Pie. Saskatoons are small and sweeter than blueberries with a slightly nutty flavor and tiny seeds. So good. I don't think I've had that. I'm very curious about that. What region are Saskatoons found in? It sounds Canadian to me, but I could be wrong about that. Oh, this is so sweet. Just Bob says, I make my wife a turtle pecan pie every year for her birthday. That's so kind of you to do. LB Jeeper says that they love the cranberries. Go for it. Yeah, if you love it, absolutely. But you haven't tried Alex's fresh cranberries. They are really, really good. Prius Guy is making cinnamon apples today. Sliced apples cooked over the stove in a combination of water, sugar, and cinnamon red hot candies. Oh, interesting. Using candy as a way to infuse some extra cinnamon in the apples. Okay, Mud Songs has a gaming question here. Multiplayer solitaire is a criticism of tableau Euro games, but in my experience, deck builders are worse, almost antisocial at times. Is that a concern for you as a game designer? Interesting question. So my theory here, or my opinion, is that most games that people say are multiplayer solitaire are not actually multiplayer solitaire. And I know this because I designed a game specifically to be multiplayer solitaire, and that is the game Rolling Realms. Rolling Realms is a truly multiplayer solitaire game where there is, by design, no interaction with other players. That lets it scale up to any player counts. It means that you can play against me in real time or not real time on YouTube using the dice rolls. That is a true multiplayer solitaire game. And so oftentimes when I hear this, this criticism of games, I think two things. One, I think three things. One, I think that's not actually multiplayer solitaire. B, I think if you're looking for conflict or ways to disrupt the opponents, that is a different genre of game that isn't multiplayer solitaire. You are looking for a combat or conflict-driven game, and that's a different thing. That I think some people are looking for it, but I think a lot of people aren't looking for it. And three, or C, I don't know how I was doing this list. When I am focused on building something, I don't really care all that much about a ton of interactions between players. I want to focus on building something awesome. So I actually think it's an asset for tableau builders, even for deck builders at times. Most of which still have interactions in terms of cards in the market that you're taking that other players aren't taking. That's maybe the main interaction. But also often there's some positive player interaction, like in Finspan. Finspan is a fairly low interaction game, but it does have a number of abilities in the game that say that have you doing something that helps all players, that gives something to all players. In Finspan, there's also some comparative goal scoring as well. So almost always when I hear this criticism, it is because I think players are looking for more conflict, combat, or disruption. And I'm just not looking for that when I'm playing a tableau builder. And so, or even a deck builder. I'm looking to build something awesome and have it pop off sometimes with some combos. So yeah, that's my thought. It's just not what I'm looking for in those types of games. If I want a combat game, I'll go play Kemet, or I'll go play Mistborn. And Mistborn, I know that I'm getting into a deck building game where I am potentially dealing damage to a lot of other players, and that's what I'm looking for when I play Mistborn. Let's see. Joshua says, I can't access the progress chart from work, but are the Smoking Bones projects still on track? If I remember correctly, I think one was targeting 2026. Well, let's see. I'm not going to give away that specifically, but I will pull up the progress chart on my other screen so you can see it. Let's see where we are right now on the progress chart. Okay. Here's the progress chart. So we just had the Wingspan Fan Design Bird Packs. They'll come to retailers on December 5th. So they're coming soon. You can pre-order it. If you're looking to get them from your local retailer, you can get them soon. Tokaido just came out. Origin Story just came out. I think the retail releases are in progress right now. We have Wingspan expansion, Finspan expansion, and then we have a bunch of code names. So yeah, I haven't given away what these code names are yet, just that there are certain things that are coming in 2026. Here's where I draw the line for 2026 with Namiji near the end of the year, most likely. In fact, I should update this to Q4 because that's probably what we're looking at. But yeah, this is the current outline for these games right now. Yeah. So I haven't revealed what those code names are, but that's something that I might be talking about on December 31st when I do the preview for the year. Chad says, have you ever been interested in or partaken in the hobby side of wargaming? The cutting parts off sprues, the gluing figures together, painting. I just got into it and find it very satisfying in my spare time. I love that. I love that you're finding that very satisfying. It isn't something that I've engaged in, I would say almost at all. I don't think I've ever painted a miniature or glued figures together, but I'm really glad you're having fun with it. One other topic, speaking of like different gaming topics, that have been on my mind recently. I blogged about meta-connective games the other day. These are games where tabletop games where something that you do in the game could, if you wanted to, have an impact on other people in the world who are playing that tabletop game. This is fairly common in digital games, like in Elden Ring. I gave this example. In Elden Ring, you can leave a message for other players to find while they're playing the game. In the game Helldivers 2, you can, as you are like working together with all players around the world to free up new planets, then potentially you might unlock new planets as a result. So you're collectively doing something together. That's a really neat form of player interaction there. I am fascinated by these elements. And in the blog post, I give 2 examples of the ways that I've used meta-connective elements in Charterstone and Vantage. But I'm curious if any of you have read that post and have any thoughts that have come after that, or have thought of any other examples on the tabletop, other tabletop games that have had meta-connective elements. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear other examples of that and just your thoughts on them in general. Let's see, I see some theories about racing in games. Joshua says, the fact that most sports can be played for fun, but racing is not as easy to do legally. That's true. Yeah, I think very few people can just go out and race unless you're using your legs to race instead of a car. Okay, Bob mentioned the Wingspan event at the local bookstore that recently opened. The name of the store is Sparkle. And we discussed playing Finspan for the next game night. That would be great. Yeah, Finspan, I think, plays faster than Wingspan, so I think it works well for a public game night like that. Jeff says that SLU, St. Louis University, is in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. That's awesome. Yeah, St. Louis is a pretty good soccer town, and I'm glad to hear that they're doing well in the tournament. Garrett had recommended the show. Garrett, now I'm blanking on the name of the show, but he says this is a Netflix show, thriller mystery about an author who becomes obsessed with her new neighbor who is accused of murdering his wife. Garrett, can you now remind me the name of that show? I'm sorry, I've already forgotten since your previous comment. Oh yeah, Stranger Things. Stranger Things, the first part of season 5, the final season, launches today on Netflix. So we will probably dive into that as well. I'm excited to see what they do with that. Carol has a question or an answer for the question about longest played Stonemaier games. Between Two Castles, as is the only one that I don't own. Oh, Carol, well, Carol does The Mill. It runs The Mill YouTube channel. Carol, we can send you Between Two Castles Essential Edition because we that was a new 2025 release. Let me know if you want that. We can certainly send that to you. Nate has a theory about racing. I think a lot of Americans, could be a little generalized here, Nate, we'll see, only view racing through the lens of NASCAR and negative feelings related to that. I would say actually F1, I did say NASCAR, but, or maybe I didn't say NASCAR. I said cars going around the track, but F1 I think has been much more visible in the US due to the F1, there have been some movies and the F1 series on Netflix recently. So I think it's actually, I wouldn't quite say that stereotype anymore about Americans and our relationship with car racing. I think that's changed over the last few years. Rob says, most recent plays were Wingspan and Finspan, and non-Stonemaier were Forest Shuffle and Welcome to the Moon. He says, I don't know if you posted it yet, but when will the Rolling Realms playthrough be? I did one yesterday, Rob, and then I'm doing one today and one tomorrow, all around 3 o'clock. And yeah, so join me at 3 o'clock today. Right now it is 10:30 St. Louis time. So in, what, 4.5 hours? You getting that right? Yeah, 4.5 hours. And Rob's working on remodeling his house. What are your plans for the holiday? I am probably doing mostly work tomorrow and then taking a break in the evening to do some Friendsgiving food gatherings tomorrow. Aaron says, I'm curious when it comes to sports games if it's more the matter of abstractness inherent in board games. I think that's why it's harder to translate sports like baseball or basketball potentially. I can see that too. Yeah. I think it might also be maybe a little bit about the flow of the game. Like with racing, you are going around a track. And unlike Mario Kart, there aren't like fun shortcuts and things like that typically, although you can add them in tabletop games. But in a game like soccer, the ball is going to go in a million different directions throughout the game. Like that is part of the thrill of the game, like where the passes connect, how a player controls a ball with such elegance and grace. And those things, I don't know if you can account for them as well in the tabletop game. Papa Pastor says, do you think the mechanism from fantasy football guillotine leagues could work well in a board game? Players get eliminated and their cards become available. I know player elimination is often disliked. I am loving the guillotine league. Well, I did love it. I got cut from it. I'm out. But I love the guillotine format of the fantasy football league that I was in this season. First time I've done fantasy football in a long time. And I had a lot of fun with it. Partially because of what you said, that when a player got every week, the person with the lowest score got eliminated, and their players entered the free agent market for us to spend a limited amount of money, fake money on to pick up those players. I don't know if it would work in a tabletop game as well because of player elimination. I don't know, but it is a really neat format. It makes you feel like it gives the feeling of a continuous draft throughout the season, which is what I really loved about it. Paul is also enjoying Pluribus, one of the shows that Garrett says that he is enjoying right now. That's awesome. So I'm waiting for maybe a few more episodes, and then we'll jump into it. Michael says that his wife and I started playing Sunderfold, the kind of board game adjacent game on PS5. Sunderfold. I don't think I'm familiar with that one. One game that I'm curious about. I don't know if I want to get into it because I've heard it's around 8 hours, which is longer than I play most video games. But a game called Dispatch. Have any of you played Dispatch, and would you recommend it? From what I've heard, it is like an animated superhero show, but with some gamification elements, but some story elements and some elements of like which characters do you plug into this scenario, and then you watch it play out. I'm very curious about it. Have any of you played Dispatch, digital game? Here, Viking Kittens talks about Saskatoons. They're mostly Canadian berries found in Western prairies, British Columbia, and Northwestern and North Central United States. Awesome. Okay, well, I will have to find them and give them a try. They sound delicious. Also, among recent plays, I have a video coming about this on Friday. I did play the Old King's Crown with a total of 4 people at my game night this past weekend. The art of this game was stunning. Like, I know I've seen photos of the art, but in person, the art is even better. Really, really beautiful art. And really great core gameplay. I don't know after the first play how I feel about all the different layers that were added to it. It was really overwhelming to try to keep track of all the different amount of information. There's a lot of text to read from across the table, and text that honestly you just can't keep track of from across the table, and kind of layers upon layers of abilities. I don't know if I needed all that stuff, but I do like the core system in the game, which is put 3 cards down, reveal them, compare them to the other player's cards, and activate some abilities. That I really liked. That I thought was really great. But I was mostly enamored by the art. I thought the art of Old King's Crown was really, really stunning. Paul has a recommendation for cheesecake, brunch berry pizza. He uses the recipe from Taste of Home. It's a thin dessert crust with a thin cheesecake topping and a fruit topping on top of that. It's a real treat, absolutely delicious. Sounds slightly healthy too. If you get some fruit in there. Thank you for that recommendation, Paul. We have a Texas pecan pie from Drumox here, one of the favorites. Tasting History has the recipe for that one. A lot of pie picks today. You all are making me hungry. It's a Dream Chicken Nugget Supreme says, can you speak on how you manage separating your personal life from the public despite being a highly visible figure in the game industry? Any thoughts on parasocial relationships in general? Very interesting question there. How do I handle it? So I guess for the way I think about it is I do some things that are very public facing. I do these live casts. I make YouTube videos. I post on social media. But then everything else that I do is off cameras, off screen, whether it's personal or professional. It's kind of behind the scenes. A lot of what I do is behind the scenes. And I like that. I guess maybe the part of the question is here is how much of my personal life do I talk about publicly? And for the most part, I'm an open book. Like if it's something about me or my life that is mine to divulge, so it isn't like, someone else's private information in my life, then I'm happy to talk about it. I really do like, I like that I can be transparent about those things. I can share myself as well as our game. So I love when people ask questions here that are related to not just games and Stonemaier Games, but also about me. I'm honored that you'd be curious about that sort of thing. And I love when you all share those aspects of yourself as well, the things that you love, the people, the stories from your life that that make sense for these conversations. Yeah, I love hearing those things from you. So, but I do think that that line is drawn differently from everyone, and I respect those boundaries. There are many tabletop game publishers who keep it strictly about games, and I totally get that. They don't want more to bleed into their what their content is, or sometimes they're just making games, and that's awesome. But I can't separate the two. I think the two are, for me, are truly intertwined. Matthew says, I have Vantage Origin Story and now Wormspan. If you could only recommend one of your older games, which one would you recommend I get next? Of my older games, if you really like Vantage Origin Story and Wormspan, then we're looking at tableau building for all three of them. Varying degrees of weight in those games. But maybe Tapestry. I think if you want to go expensive, go Tapestry. If you want to go cheaper, and you want to build a cool tableau. Actually, Between Two Castles has you building a tableau with tiles in a really unique way that I think is really, really neat. So maybe go with that one. Okay, Garrett has now given me this answer twice. The Beast in Me is the show that Garrett was talking about. Thank you, Garrett, for reminding me of that. Chad says, I heard a funny theory that you can tell a lot about a person by simply asking who their favorite Ninja Turtle is. So what's yours? And Donatello was my favorite growing up. I liked the what did he call it? It was a bow, like a bow staff that he used to fight with, and I liked that about Donatello for some reason. Awesome. Austin got Between Two Castles at Design Day, and might be a Thanksgiving game with his family tomorrow. Make sure you have a big table for it. It does take up a lot of space, but it does flow really well, especially if you have like even just one or two people who know how to play. You can kind of teach on the fly. Ellen says, I've been anxiously watching the ranking for Vantage go up on BGG because I really hope it gets into the top 100 as it deserves. Well, thank you for saying that, Ellen. Suddenly, the last few days, it's not on the rankings at all. Why is that? Ellen, this was a mystery that came out, I think, yesterday. And the reason that we think it happened is that Vantage has a game within the game that is also listed on BoardGameGeek. And typically, the way I think the coding works, from what I've been told, I don't really know this, but the way the coding works is that if you have two games that are tied to each other in that way, only one of them can appear on the rankings and the other one can't. But obviously, Vantage is a fully fledged game on its own, and I can't say where it should appear in the rankings, but it should be ranked on BoardGameGeek. And so the programmers are fixing it, and tomorrow it should reappear in those rankings. So thanks for rooting for it, at the very least. For the rankings are really nice for helping people discover new games. So I think that's really helpful for people. Always, I recommend to anyone, if you have played a game, I recommend ranking it, whether it's a Stonemaier game or rating it, so that it can help others who are looking for games on BoardGameGeek. Okay, Garrett says that Dispatch is incredible, and you can turn off a lot of the QuickTime events and sort of enjoy it as a show as well. Oh, that's awesome, Garrett. I always love a recommendation from you. So yeah, I will. One of the things. So here's my one wish for Dispatch. I wish I could play it on our TV because I think it would be fun to like watch and play it with Megan. But I don't think we're gonna huddle like we can. That's on the comfort of her couch. I don't think we would do that on my computer. So I guess maybe we could find a way to project it onto the screen, but it would take a lot of setup to do that. So I wish it's one of those games that we could play on the TV somehow. And we know we don't have a Steam Deck. If I play Steam games, it's just on my PC. Last call for Shaw says, my wife absolutely loves Dispatch. She finished yesterday and demanded I play it this weekend. It's made with the Critical Role team, who are known for role playing. Oh, awesome. Nice. Yeah, I haven't followed much from Critical Role, but I do know they are beloved. So that's a nice endorsement as well. And Garrett points out that it's split up into episodes, this video game called Dispatch. Austin points out that Mitchell will be very glad to hear that you said Donatello. Yeah, Mitchell, that's true. Mitchell, if you're watching this, Mitchell was the voice of Donatello in the animated series for a while. Michael Joyce says that the between two games, cities and castles, are great for family get-togethers. We make sure to spread out the gamers between the casuals to ensure that everyone has some experience support. It's been years now since we initially found Between Two Cities, Between Two Castles, and I still think the system is so clever for accessibility and welcoming people into the game. If you don't know these systems, I'll say it briefly. In Between Two Castles and Between Two Cities, you are making a city with a player on your left, and you're making a city with a player on the right. That's cities, at least. Castles, you do the same thing. But it's slightly more complex. Castles is a little bit more complex. But you're building these things with the players on your left and the right, but only your higher scoring of the two will win at the end of the game. So it is a competitive game where you are trying to win. You're trying to balance between the two. But the genius of this system, other than the interaction, the drafting, there's a ton of interaction in this game. We talked about interaction earlier, purely positive in this game. The true genius, I think, is that it makes the game so easy to teach, because if I don't know how to play, all I have to do is sit down next to someone who does know how to play, and they can coach me through it on the fly. There's no rules explanation needed up front, as long as you can spread out the people who know how to play around the table. Or even if you are the only one who knows how to play, maybe spread out some people who, like, who was saying this? Austin was saying this, that you can, Michael was saying this, that you spread out people who are maybe more comfortable learning games on the fly, who know more experience, who are more experienced with games, and they can help the casual players catch up as they play. Being able to teach a game in that way in real time, spreading players out around the table, I think is brilliant. I think that is so cool about the Between Two series from Ben and Matthew. Ian says, did you ever watch Extracted? And if so, what did you think, especially the last half of the season? Ian, I was really excited about it, but then I think you and a few others mentioned that people ended up being kind of mean to each other on it, and that kind of dropped it down on the list a little bit. It's still on my list, but I haven't returned to it. Do you think that's fair, or should I give it a try anyway and people aren't actually all that mean on the show? Derry, hey Derry, good to see you. Wingspan is one of the best-selling games of all time. I don't know if that's entirely true, but it has sold a lot of copies. What do you think are some of the main reasons for that, both game-wise and business-wise? It's one of my favorite games, and the informative theme is the biggest reason why. Derry, that's a good question. I do have a blog post. Let's see if I can Google it real quick and find this blog post on this topic. If you search for the formula for Wingspan success, formula Wingspan, and I'll highlight, yeah, so here, the formula for Wingspan's longevity, replayability, and success. I'll pull it up on my other screen here so you can see it. So here's what this article looks like. So it talks about like how often Wingspan has sold well, but it's also just been played a lot. And 2023, this is even before the digital version had a giant rise. So this was people playing Wingspan on the tabletop, one of the most or the most monthly recorded players at this particular moment in the screenshot during this time. But I gave 3 different reasons. One, as a simple action system with card-driven complexity. So simple system, but all the complexity, the layers of the game come from the hundreds of different cards that Elizabeth Hargrave designed. And now we have some official fan designs as well. 2, high level of discovery and progression. And whenever you're playing the game, you are discovering things as you go, and you're kind of leveling up as you play. That you're getting better and better as you play, even within a single game of Wingspan. And the combination of beautiful art with a realistic yet marvelous theme. And I think birds are somewhat unique to this. I think there are other examples of this, but I think birds are somewhat unique. And just the illustrations by Natalia and Anna, they take 10 plus hours to draw by hand. Every single bird, they painstakingly draw these birds. They really bring them to life. So I think this combination, this is my best guess for these 3 things. There are also other factors that went into it. Like if a game reaches a certain critical mass, then kind of success leverages into more success. There were also some early publications that help bump that early success. The player count, I think, helps, that you can play with a bunch of players. It plays well at lower player counts. It also plays well at higher player counts. I actually mentioned language dependence here, that the vast variety of abilities in Wingspan come from the fact that we didn't try to distill the abilities down to icons. We gave, or not that we gave, but we had the freedom of text abilities that could be fairly robust and different, makes them really unique, make them really thematically designed. You don't have that flexibility when you're trying to use only a combination of icons. Digital game support came later. It wasn't crowdfunded. I think this is notable. And I have a blog post that came later about this as well, that I think I've seen fewer crowdfunded games really break through. And you can see it up here. Look at this up here. Arc Nova wasn't crowdfunded. Wingspan wasn't crowdfunded. Azul wasn't crowdfunded. The original version of Cascadia may have been crowdfunded. That may be an exception there. Original version of Terraforming Mars, I don't think that was crowdfunded. Dune Imperium wasn't crowdfunded. Lost Words. So these are many hit games, and not all of them, but many of the hit games on this list were not originally crowdfunded. And I don't think that is a coincidence. I think crowdfunding, as wonderful as it is, I think it can limit a game's evergreen potential, because there's so much of the focus out of the gate and not on longevity and retail support and ongoing ways to get and build out that game. That is a theory. I don't know how true that actually is, but I have a different blog post about that theory as well. I'm sorry, I did say this wrong. RJ Games guy says, in between two cities, the lower scoring of your two cities is the one that you score, not the higher scoring of the two. Gary says, how do you currently stream to your TV? Built-in apps, or do you have something like an Apple TV connected to it? We use, how do we stream to it? We have I guess it's just a cable box. Yeah, it's a cable box. He says, Apple TV has a Stream Link app where you could pretty easily stream from your PC to the TV. Oh, that's interesting. We have Apple TV as a streaming service, but we don't have the Apple TV like box. We use the cable box. But maybe there is something that I don't know of about either the smart TV itself or the cable, how the cable is connected to it. That might help. Troy asked about the Old King's Crown. Troy, yeah, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but I'm happy to rehash it. I briefly said that I did get to play it. I loved the art. I was a little overwhelmed by the layers of abilities. I think maybe it was a little bit too many, but at its core, the core system of kind of conflict in the game, I liked that. It was just a little overwhelming with the layers upon layers of abilities that you can gain, that you can activate, that you can that other players have, that are asymmetric to other players. That was a lot. But the art and the core system I thought were really solid. Okay, Ian does confirm that the second half of Extracted gets very mean. It started out very friendly with the family in the bunker. It turned from helping the survivalists to sabotaging other family survivalists. Yeah, that's what I recall others saying as well. I'm not quite as interested in that, I have to say. Garrett says that Samsung used to have a built-in app. I think we have an LG TV. But Steam Link. Okay, I'll check out. I'll see if I can get Steam Link to work with our setup. Thank you for that recommendation, Garrett. What else is going on? Do I have anything else going on here? No, I've talked about pretty much everything on the list here. I did before we end today, I did want to say that I'm thankful for you, for all of you who buy our games, who play our games, who show up on these live casts to watch or like or listen or comment. That really does mean a lot to me. And I don't say it often enough, but I don't take it for granted that you take time out of your day and your week and your month to show up here from time to time, whether you're live or in the future, to learn our games, to teach our games, to play our games. I am really grateful for that. I mean, this is a dream for me that you would want to show up and hang out for a little bit, whether it's here or on the tabletop. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Darius says, I think that if a game can't sell at retail, chances are it won't sell much overall. While I'm all for crowdfunding, I don't think it should be the only way for a publisher to publish and sell a game. I do certainly agree with that. I do respect that publishers make different choices based on what's best for them. But I do think this theory has some merit in that I think it is tougher for a game to become evergreen if it starts out with crowdfunding. I don't entirely know why that is, but it's just a pattern that I've seen emerge over time. And maybe it's just because we have so many games released now, quality games released now, it's tougher to break through as well. Troy says, very similar, many layers to Old King's Crown, but is it too many layers? I think it depends on how deep into the game that you want to go. Like, I noticed that the person teaching the game, he had played, my friend Pete, he had played it around 5 times, and he seemed to remember all the different asymmetric abilities pretty well. He was still learning the like the Kingdom cards, I think they were called. He had to learn them on the fly as they showed up in the tableau. But he had a pretty good grasp of all the other abilities. It's like playing Root once or twice versus playing Root a dozen times. You're going to have a much better grasp of the different interactions, the different abilities in the game. But for a first play, I would say too many layers. Second play, also still probably too many layers. So I think it depends all on how deep into the game that you want to go. Chad says, you say designing a deck building game or even a bag building game has been difficult for you. Is there something specific that you've had a hard time overcoming? A few different things, yeah. I mean, I would say one of them is just the general idea of making a bag building game or a deck building game that doesn't already exist, that is different than those that already exist. It offers something unique to the genre, while still acknowledging that there is a certain core element of deck building that just works. It works really well. And so deciding how far to take a twist on it is something that I've struggled with. The other thing that I've struggled with is, I know I'm blanking on it. I had it for a second there. Is the theming idea around it. And sometimes I just have to say, I'm not going to think about this to try to make it work, because the theming concept of randomness in deck building thematically, I think rarely makes sense. That I would randomly get, like, say, an ability that I've learned. Say I've learned an ability from the general tableau. I've learned that ability, but now I don't have access to it right away. I only have access to it sometimes and randomly, and when I use it, it goes away. I don't have that ability for a while. That is always just thematically odd to me. I think it's very rare that a deck building game makes thematic sense, and I think I just need to get over that and not think about it, because I think I'm trying too hard for it to make sense. Yeah, so that's where I come from on that. That's what I've struggled with. Robert won a game of Tokaido over the weekend. Awesome, Robert. Congratulations on the win. Joshua says, is it more that Kickstarter games are not designed to work well in retail, or the publishers don't plan long-term? Because otherwise, I think Kickstarters could work as evergreen if planned out. I think part of it is that a lot of crowdfunded games now are really focused on deluxeification. And I don't think that works as well retail in the long term. And so, yeah, I think that is a big part of it. Yeah. And Drumex says, have I watched Silo? We have watched Silo. We watched both seasons of it. And Drumex says, I've read the books. I'm wondering if it's worth watching the show. I think the show is actually really, really solid. As far as I know, yeah, I've only read one book in the series, and I can't remember which one it was. But I think the show is really, really well done. I think you'll know after maybe 2 episodes if it's for you. But I think it's worth watching. I think the visuals, putting those visuals, pairing them with what you've read in the series, I think is worth a few episodes at the very least. Papa Pastor says, do you have a favorite board game YouTuber, a favorite YouTuber in general? I truly cannot distill it down to one, because I have a lot. I watch a lot of YouTubers. You can see them. I think the best way to see the ones that I love the most are to look back at our charity auctions over the last 10 plus years, maybe 12 years at this point. And you will see some of my favorite YouTubers featured there, because there are quite a few. A question that I will be asking you all, so think about this in the coming weeks and months, is if we sponsor more playthroughs from YouTubers in 2026, who would you like us to feature? We have some that were featured this year, but I'm open to switching it up and reaching out to other YouTubers whose playthroughs you really enjoy. Let me know who your favorites are, or think about it. You can let me know down in the comments if you already know, but think about that in the coming weeks and months. Which playthroughs on YouTube are you actively watching, or maybe even commenting on, that you really, really love, that you would love to see us sponsor for our games in 2026? Aaron has a good comparison here. You could always look at deck building card thematically, like you learn how to destroy a wall with a punch, but you're destroying a wall with your fist. You're not going to want to do that all the time. That's true. And I've heard that logic about, like, if I have a sword in my deck, why can't I just constantly use that sword? It's because I'm kind of tired from using that sword. I've swung the sword. I need to give that arm a break. And so the sword goes back in the deck. It's a thin explanation, I think. but it might be enough for me to work with that. Oh, Matthew is totally tabled. Awesome. Yeah. Austin says he personally doesn't watch many playthroughs, but I would be interested in watching the designers of the game instead play the game and give a behind-the-scenes commentary throughout. That's interesting. To do a playthrough where the designer adds their commentary to it. That's an interesting idea, Austin. Definitely takes extra work to do that, but I can see how that would elevate a playthrough to a special new level. I'm going to think on that. I really like that idea. All right, I'm going to take off and think about Austin's idea. I'm going to take off and eat some lunch, but I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving if you are in the US and you're celebrating it. And if you're not, I'm grateful for you anyway. And I hope you find something that you're thankful for this week. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Take care.